Welcome to Psychology Demystified with me, Dr. Karen. Now, we've probably all been in a situation where we've had a very long day at work, we're exhausted, we've had a horrible interaction with the boss, we've had a very unpleasant interaction with a relative, and then we come home or we go and visit someone else, and then we interact with this little being who then asks us something, and we say no. And that no is then followed by whining or by arguing from a teenager who won't listen to the no and doesn't understand why you said no. And then we say something back that maybe we shouldn't say. What are some of the things that we say that might be causing an impact on the children or teenagers who are still children that we may be dealing with on a daily basis? Keep watching and let's find out. Now, at this point in time, the one thing that you're probably feeling is that this child is driving you up the wall. They're driving you nuts. They're driving you insane. And then what comes out of your mouth is, you're making me crazy, or you're driving me nuts, or you're making me insane. Now, whatever version that we use of that same phrase, is what it does, it uses guilt to motivate a child to change their behavior. And yes, of course, they are driving you nuts. And in that moment, you're fully entitled to feel that way. But sometimes it's better not to say it out loud. Because when you do, when you say it in this unedited fashion, what you then do is that you worsen the situation by negatively impacting the relationship with that child in that moment. And what it does is that it kind of primes children to almost feel like they're responsible for other people's feelings. And eventually, if not kept in check, it could be a recipe for a child having low self-esteem or feeling anxious whenever they have an interaction with someone that may be not going the right way. So, as much as they may be driving you crazy, think it, don't say it. Next scenario. You walk into a room and your son or your daughter or your niece or your nephew or the child who you may be looking after for a friend as they go out for their date night might have decided to cut your favorite shirt into tiny little pieces. Or you find that your child has put makeup everywhere. And they don't choose the cheapo, El Cheapo makeup. They choose the designer makeup and use it to design your bed in bright red or the mirror or something crazy. I think some of you are starting to hear these situations and you're starting to go nuts. And the first thing that comes to mind is, what's wrong with you? And that's the first thing that you tell that child. You ask the child what's wrong with them. Now this has a couple of impacts. As easily as it comes out, this phrase kind of uses shame to motivate a child to change their behavior. Because we believe that if we ask them what's wrong with them, they will then self-reflect and think, ooh, there's something wrong with me. Maybe I should change. But that's not always how it works. When a child hears what's wrong with you, a lot of them believe that there's something flawed in who they are as a person. Not necessarily in their action, but who they are as a person. Because children sometimes find it hard to distinguish between their actions and themselves, and they kind of bind it together. So you have to be very careful in how you phrase the what's wrong with you, because they might generally start believing that there's something actually wrong with them. Another situation is when your child or the child who has been entrusted to your care then decides to go against your wishes. And for example, if you've told them to go to bed and you've told them once, twice, thrice, you know you're going to say something. And a lot of people say, you'd better do something or else. Now this phrase and others like it actually only use fear or intimidation to motivate change. And what it actually does is this kind of phrase relies on aggression and intimidation to make your child do what it is that you want them to do. Now, as people are using this intimidation and aggression, they don't keep in mind that one day, when they're tiny, it's easy to do it because, of course, they will run, scamper to bed. But someday they may be bigger than you. And then how effective is it going to be then? How effective is it going to be when you have this 17-year-old who's staring back at you and you're looking up at them and using the you better or else? It's not going to work. So you have to figure out how to talk to them in a manner that teaches them to achieve what they want without imitating your aggression and your intimidation as a way of getting it. Now, some of you might be thinking, but I use all three. Have I damaged my child? No, you have not. It's a learning process. This is why we do this. This is why I'm demystifying psychology, so that we can learn from each other. What you're trying to learn how to avoid doing is on focusing the attention on the child as a whole, which is what the phrases that you may have been using before do, and instead just focus on their behavior alone. When you focus on the behavior alone, your child gets to learn that they're not a bad person, but their behavior may not be acceptable. So they get to find that there's a difference between their behavior and them as a person. So there's nothing wrong with them, but there's something wrong with the behavior that they may have chosen to participate in at that particular time. So I'm sure your next question is, okay, fine. So now that you've negated all three of the things that I use that have been working like a charm in my house, what do I do next? Okay, here are some strategies. You could say, I really don't like that behavior. Or, I really don't like it when you do whatever it is that they did. Or, when you do this, I feel this. And then naturally, always assume that your child is always thinking why. So go ahead and preempt that why and say, tell them why the behavior that they were doing was not okay. And then try and help them find out how they could deal with the situation a little differently next time. So discuss different methods that they could use next time. Discuss different ways of approaching you that are better for the next time. Because an open discussion with your child starts to increase trust. And it removes the idea that you are the fear instiller, that you are the disciplinarian only, that you are get aggressive when you want something. And they start to learn that there are ways that you can actually have a discussion that could end in everyone being happy with the outcome. And that's all, folks. Have a great day or night or whatever it is. And please continue spreading hugs and kindness wherever you go. We don't have enough in the world, and every little bit that you do counts. So, hugs and kindness always. Take care. Bye.